Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be doing my May wrap up. So it was a very successful reading month for me in a lot of ways. I finished school, like my semester, early May. So May 5th was my day of freedom. So I have had a lot more time dedicated for reading, which I was really happy about. So I read a total of 8 books this month, and I'm very proud about that. So that's a big accomplishment for me. I think this is the most books I've read all year, so that is very exciting. And they're kind of all over the place in terms of genre and ratings and all that. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I first read Us Against You by Frederick Backman, and this is the sequel to Beartown, which is a book that takes place in Sweden, and it follows a small town called Beartown that is very much, its life essentially is hockey. Everyone's life is absorbed by this junior men's hockey team, and when something happens between the star player of the hockey team and the general manager's daughter, it kind of divides the town and it goes off from there. So I don't want to spoil too much about it, but this one deals immediately with the aftermath of what happened in the first book. The first book very much deals with rape culture and how people respond to that differently, and then this one focuses more on kind of the long-term effects of that, and I think this gives a good description of it. So it says, a lyrical look at how a community heals, how families recover, and how individuals grow. And I think that is a good representation of this story. What I love the most about this is the writing style. It's so unique. It is very lyrical and whimsical, and the way I see it, it's told from the narration style, almost like The Book Thief, where the narrator knows like the future of these characters and it will kind of allude to stuff that happened there, which I really enjoy. And it's almost kind of like the spirit of the town goes and follows all these different people's stories that eventually intertwine and are tangled in many different ways, and I think that is just so well done. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this was a really good sequel and I really loved it. So some of you guys said that there may be a third one. There's a rumored third one going to be coming out, so I'm very interested to see that. But overall, if you're looking for something kind of hard-hitting, I highly recommend you check this series out. So next I read the entire collection of the Selection series, like the original trilogy, and I read this with my friend and I did not like it at all. I did enjoy like the first book a little bit, like it was just kind of like fun chick lit, and I don't really tend to read that, but I'm like, this is just like a mindless thing. Sorry, I got my bangs cut, and they're a little too short, so I apologize, but like it was just fun chick click, and then it just started getting problematic as the series progressed. Like I hated it so much. It is so tropey, it's just cringy, and I didn't like any of the characters. The first book I gave 2 out of 5 stars, and the other 2 I gave 1 out of 5 stars. So I wasn't the biggest fan of this series. America is probably one of the worst protagonists ever, and I just hated the ending. It was just too convenient, and the characters and the love triangles were just horrible, like horrible. Like America would be like within the same page be like, oh, I'm in love with Maxon, and then she'll be like, but I love Aspen, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I don't like this book at all. And I was reading some of the 1-star reviews on Goodreads and they're so funny. So if you didn't like the Selection series, go check out the Goodreads review. They're hilarious, but I wasn't the biggest fan of this series, so I don't recommend it. But if you're looking for something easy and mindless and that can just really give you some fire to your like day and make you angry, then I recommend that. But when I was thinking with like the love triangle and how much America flip-flops between Maxon and Aspen, it's kind of like remember the Hannah Montana episode where Jackson's like, I'm Miley, I'm Hannah, I'm Miley, I'm Hannah. It's basically, I'm in love with Maxon, I'm in love with Aspen. Like that was basically like it, and it's just so ridiculous. Like I don't understand why this series is so loved. Next, I ended up picking up Path of Night, which is the 3rd book in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina book series companion, and I'm a fan of this TV series on Netflix. I love it so much, and I think these books do a good job at complementing this series and adding more depth and perspective and background to the characters and things that are alluded to in the TV shows but aren't necessarily discussed. But I love this series so much, and the books are just fun, and it made me kind of feel more like I kind of want to binge this series again. And I think, like, I can't really talk about too much of the plots if you haven't seen the series, but the first one takes place before season 1, the second book takes place between season 1 and season 2, and this one takes place between season 2 and season 3, and I really like that we get more kind of background on Nick, the character, who I love Nicholas Scratch, but yeah, I liked it. It just gave it kind of like sets up for season 3, which I enjoyed. And season 3 was a little confusing in some parts, so it was good kind of having this refresher of it, because I'm like, oh, I kind of want to watch, like I said, I want to rewatch this series again. But if you are a fan of the series, I highly recommend you check this book series out. Like, it's a very well done companion kind of spin-off for this, but I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I ended up picking Saving Sophie by Ronald H. Balson, and this is the second book in the Once We Were Brothers series, and I've read the first one and third one, so I've read them out of order, so this is the second one, so I wanted to kind of be all caught up and kind of have that. But this one wasn't my favorite of the series. It deals with the Palestinian-Israel conflict, which I don't really know too much about. That's just my own ignorance, but I did learn so much about it. But the plot in this one was very much slow, and it didn't have that emotional impact that the first and third one had. Maybe because the first and third one deal with World War II, but I just felt like I wasn't attached with the kind of mystery in here as well. I did like the ending. The ending was really quite intense, but this one wasn't my favorite. Like I said, like, I did learn so much about the conflict that's going on there, because, you know, I've heard about it, but I've never really like had like something like there that kind of explained it, and this book does a really thorough job at respectfully and kind of non-biasly, like, or subjectively kind of explaining this conflict, which I thought was really well done. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite of the series, but it's just good that I kind of have it, the storyline, in order now, so that is good. So this comes as no surprise, but I ended up picking up The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, and this is the much anticipated prequel to The Hunger Games following President Snow. And in general, I've had a love-hate relationship with The Hunger Games. I prefer the movies over the books, like, hands down, except the second book. The second book was amazing, but this is like one of the weird cases where I've kind of, like, the first book was good, I really loved the second one, and the third book was just kind of meh with me, but nevertheless, I was still really excited. I do love this world, and I was really excited to kind of follow President Snow, like, when he's a teenager. So basically we follow Snow when he's 18 years old, and he is tasked with being basically a mentor to a girl who's a tribute from District 12 during the 10th Hunger Games. And it was interesting seeing how the choices he makes and the decisions he's making ultimately lead him to the personality that we see him in, you know, the original Hunger Games 60 years later. So it's very interesting seeing that, and I thought that part was really well done. I felt like it was just unnecessarily long. At some points, this book's over 500 pages, and I feel like 150, like 200 pages could have been shaved down off of it, because it was just way too long. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun being back in this world and kind of being back in that Hunger Games setting, and there's a lot of tidbits or like Easter eggs in this. If you are familiar with the original trilogy, there's kind of little tidbits in there that kind of allude to things that happen in the future, and like why Snow reacts the way he does. I think it was really interesting, and the ending of this was just insane. Like, the last like 30 pages were so crazy. But I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't just like blown away by it. And like I said, I did feel like it struggled with some pacing issues, but it was just a really good prequel. I think, like, it was a very decent prequel, and I thought it was really well done, and you can tell like a lot of effort went into writing this. It wasn't just like a a little small novella. Like, she actually spent a lot of time on here, and I pre-ordered this off of Amazon like a while ago, and when it came in the mail it was like folded, one of the pages was folded in half, and so I went to fix it, but I guess when it was getting made, it got folded, so I have this one extra long piece of paper, so I keep it folded in there. But I thought that was just something funny because, well, what are the chances of that? And lastly, rounding out the books that I read in May, I finally have The Trust by Ronald H. Balson, and this is the fourth book in the Once We Were Brothers series. So I read the second and fourth one because those are the ones that I didn't read. But I really enjoyed this one so much more than Saving Sophie. So this one follows Liam, who is one of the private investigators. So this series follows Catherine, who is a lawyer, and Liam, who is a private detective, and they work together and to solve some of the crime either committed many years ago in history, World War II, crimes that weren't really solved, or mysteries of there, or some of the present day ones. So this is one of the present day ones, and we follow Liam's family, and he had a falling out with his family in Ireland once they found out that he was working for the CIA and giving information about the Northern Ireland conflict, which is something I didn't know about either, like the Catholic and Protestant troubles as they were defined, which I didn't know anything about it. So this book does a really good job at also providing you with more information on that. So I've learned a lot with this series, but after the falling out, he hasn't talked to his family in 16 years, but he receives a call from one of his cousins saying his uncle has been murdered, and so he ends up being the one in charge of this uncle's trust, and the people, essentially the beneficiaries, don't get their money unless the murderer has been caught. So it kind of goes off from there. But I love this. Even though I guessed early on who was the bad guy in here, I still really enjoyed it. It was so suspenseful. I love the mystery aspect in here, and the last couple chapters were just so suspenseful. It was a good mix of thriller and mystery. It was just really well done. So definitely was so much better than Saving Sophie, so I was happy about that. And I think there's another one, or two more books that have been out now since this one, so I still have a few books that I can read to be all caught up in this. But I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and it was something a little bit different. I wasn't expecting this, but like I said, I loved it. It was just really good. So if you're looking for something that is a combination of both genres, this would be very good for you. And I don't think you need to read, for this one, I don't think you need to read the first 3 books to kind of understand it. I think you'll be fine if you just want to read this, but it was really good. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books you've read this month were, and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.